Welcome to the Blooming League of Original Podcasts.
Hello and welcome to Talk Musicals to Me, a fun theatre podcast about musicals and their impact on people. My name is Caroline Sheen and I'm here to quiz some of the leading creatives in the entertainment industry about their relationship with musical theatre and how certain musicals may have influenced their lives in ways you may not even expect. From how they first encountered a musical to musicals they may never even have seen, let's dive in and introduce today's guest to open up and talk musicals to me. So talking musicals to me today is the fabulous Paul Foster. Now, Paul and I worked together last summer on a lovely show. It was called Extraordinary Women in London at the Jermyn Street. What I loved about Paul is he is an extraordinary director, but also we're the same age and we have the same cultural references, which was really useful because the way you use references in your directing is so fabulous and it's just pure joy. And I understood them all because we're the same age, which is good. I didn't feel like I was out of sync with anything. Paul's past work includes wonderful performances at the Watermill of A Little Night Music, and that is my favourite theatre in the world, as listeners will know. He also directed the West End premiere of Curtains. He's done plays at the Many a Chocolate Factory and has just directed our podcast guest Pippa Cleary's Treasure Island that she wrote with Jake Brunga at the Old Vic in Bristol, and is about to direct the first ever, I believe, UK tour of Candra Nebb's Kiss of the Spiderwoman, which, when I was in drama college, that was the show. Everybody listened to those songs and we sang them until the cows came home, and I can't wait to see that. Paul Foster is our guest. Trust me, you're in for a treat listening to him talk musicals to me. Welcome, Paul.
Hello, Caroline. This is lovely because I am a fan of your podcast. I go to the gym occasionally and there's a little app that shows you how many visits to the gym you've done in the month as a little kind of good luck and keep going thing. And I think of you, I don't know, maybe you've done about 17, 18 of these. I must have listened to about all but one or two. So I do feel as though I've got my nectar points for this podcast.
Oh, I love that. And maybe you'll get extra points at the gym for actually being on the podcast that you're listening to.
Let's hope. Yeah, there's an audio thing.
You know, we both had a long chat about the Watermill, and you've worked there as an actor as well, haven't you?
I did. Again, I don't know when this is going out, Caroline, but for the date-minded amongst your listeners, it was almost exactly 20 years ago because I turned 30 on that job in the summer. And it was a brilliant production by Tim Sheeder of Hobson's Choice. I mean, incredible people, Rosalie Craig, Natalie Casey, Anna Jane Casey were just superb in it. And I think 7 of the 12 actors in it, Caroline, were brought up about 15 miles from Salford where that play is set. So I always thought they should have almost done an audio or a Radio 3 recording because normally you have to task the dialect coach very hard on that play. But, you know, I think it was incredible to hear. Yeah, it was a really golden production. And I've worked there in both summer and winter. And as you know, it's a very different place, you know, being so in touch with its nature and its outside world. So that was very much a kind of people getting into their swimming shorts in the river kind of thing. And then the flip of that is where you can see your breath in front of you as you're walking across the car park to the rehearsal kind of thing. But yeah, it's a very, very, very special place. It can suggest galaxies, can't it, in that little 200-seater. And I just, without you paying me to say this, Caroline, you were such an incredible Polly in that Crazy for You there.
Thank you.
So I have fond memories of seeing you there. Didn't you help open it with that outdoor Camelot, you know, in COVID?
Yes. Yeah, we did a special outdoor concert version of Camelot in the summer, and that was incredibly special because there were only I think there were maybe 3 productions of anything happening in the whole country, and we were one of them, and we felt very lucky and very special. And the thing about the Watermill is I always call it like the little theatre that could, because, you know, it lost a lot of funding recently, a couple of years ago, and the announcement straight after that they were going to do Lord of the Rings, and just to sort of fly in the face of that bad luck was amazing. And now this year they've just announced they're doing Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Incredible, isn't it? It's the ambition is incredible.
I mean, yeah, I love it. And I cannot wait to see that.
And they've got a great team in Paul and brilliant Claire Murray there. So yeah, I have the fondest memories and I go back when I can to it. Yeah, very, very special. And did you ever land there in the summer when they do their fete?
No.
There's a fete they do on a Sunday and they have little yellow ducklings that you put in baths for children and they bet on them and they put them on the little river run and it's like poo sticks. You see which one comes first.
Oh, fabulous.
When they say it's something that all generations can go to, that theatre really, really means it.
Yeah.
It's a great outreach department as well.
It really is. I mean, we're not being paid by them to say that. This is pure love, pure love.
We're not, unfortunately, we'll have to get a free ice cream when we're next there, Caroline.
Yeah, we'll play them this and go, here you go. Can I get a Mars bar, please? So, Paul, how did you first meet musical theatre?
Well, I wasn't from whatever a theatrical family is. I'm not from that. My mum did various jobs. You know, she worked as a dinner lady doing school dinners. She was a picker in a factory. My dad was a forklift truck driver. There was nothing in my family that suggested, you know, oh, well, we'll go down to the local theatre. It was really that school took us when we were in early secondary school that I went. But preparing for this, I do have a memory that when I was about 8, I think, we were taken to what I wouldn't remember the theatre. I know it was in Stockport, but apparently it was the Davenport Theatre in Stockport, which was demolished in the 90s. And it was to see Ken Dodd in Sinbad the Sailor.
Oh, wow.
I know. You wanted me to say Ibsen. But no, it was Ken Dodd in Sinbad the Sailor. And it was a panto that apparently, from a bit of research, it was done at Wimbledon Theatre the Christmas prior and was so successful that they did it up there. And then I think after that, it's a big gap. My uncle emigrated to the States in the 60s. My aunt emigrated to Canada in the 60s. And I went to visit them when I was 13. And on that trip to my Canadian aunt, we went to see Cats on a coach trip at the Fisher Theatre in Detroit. And I remember we had to go over the Ambassador Bridge, which is the bridge crossing between that part of Canada and the States. And we had to show our passports and saw this evening production of Cats. So we were in the Circle or the Gods, I can't remember which. And as you know, anyone obviously knows that show, it's primarily an incredible dance show, isn't it?
Yes.
I remember I got the cassette tape because I'm that era, but I can't go back and say, oh, well, you know, October I saw this and November I saw this. It was really sporadic. We weren't taken. But the thing that probably did it for me was I grew up about halfway between Manchester and Liverpool in the same town that Rick Astley's from. And obviously Never Gonna Give You Up kind of broke when we were having school disco leaving junior school.
Wow, that must have been some place to come from when that song came out.
100%, yeah, because otherwise it was mining towns really and Thatcher didn't really care for us. But yeah, to have Rick Astley do a lot, you know, and a good mate of mine was his cousin. So that was, you know, kudos. But in my secondary school, the 5th years, and maybe I was second year or something, the 5th years did Blood Brothers.
Oh.
And I think they did it, Caroline. I'm not sure if Weinbergers or Samuel French ever were asked the permission, but they were able to do the play, but with 5 or so songs from the musical. So they did Easy Terms, they did Tell Me It's Not True. And I saw it twice. And I just remember thinking it was incredible. And of course, if you're raised on Merseyside, all the references to Liverpool and George Henry Lee's The Department Store, it really kind of hit home. And I just thought Willie Russell, the storytelling, it's like a fable, it's crystal clear. And so I would say my first contact that was really meaningful was that school production when I was an audience member.
That's wonderful, isn't it? And just shows the importance of schools putting on shows because what it can bring out of people. Blood Brothers, I remember when I was in school, it would have been exactly the same time as you.
Yes, you're 5 months older than me, Caroline.
Yeah.
As I'll try and mention repeatedly.
Yes, I've already crossed that bridge to the new decade and you're still in the old one.
That's me in June.
Yeah. I'm about 2 weeks into the new one right now. I feel like we maybe studied Blood Brothers in drama and we all had scripts of it, and it wasn't, like you say, it didn't have all the songs in. It was very much a play with the odd song in. And I'd been to see it then, I think, at some point in London and just thought it was incredible. And I think I cried for about half an hour after watching it because that end is so impactful. Even though you know right from the start it's coming, you're just like, whoa.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
A great story.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
Isn't it?
I was very lucky that, so once I got the theatre going bug, I would go to a Saturday matinee in either Liverpool or Manchester and get the train in. And, you know, back in the days when I'd get somebody to write a cheque for the ticket and it would be like £8 or £9 for a single. I think I got the last seat on the banquettes at the back at the Liverpool Playhouse, which is a beautiful, you probably know it, chocolate box theatre in Williamson Square in Liverpool. And Stephanie Lawrence, this would be, I was about 16, maybe it was Christmas 92. And they did it. And I think she then came into town to London with it. But to see that show in Liverpool with a Scouse audience, it is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's like tissue paper between the audience and the stage. It was just, as you say, it takes some time to recover from that ending. If it's done well, that show, it's poleaxing.
Oh, it really is. And I love the idea of Ken Dodd being your first theatrical experience. I don't know if you've heard this sort of legend that when you go and see him do his show, he can quite easily, when he does an encore, go on and on and on and on. You could be there till midnight, apparently.
That's a true story. I was too young, but my mum and my gran went to see him at the Floral Hall in Southport in the late 80s, I would say. And yeah, I think my dad had to wait outside. This is pre-Uber and, you know, we weren't really a black cab family. The show was about 3.5 hours long, Caroline.
He just loved to work and to entertain.
Yeah. And apparently I never knew, but a wonderful giver of his time for charity, particularly children's charities. Yeah.
That's fabulous. And then Cats in Detroit.
Yeah.
I have a feeling...
Have you played the Fisher Theatre with Poppins?
I definitely did Detroit. There were 2 theatres there because I know Dreamgirls was on at the same time as we were there and I cannot remember which one I was in. But yeah, that's fascinating that you had to go from Canada to see it with your passport.
100%. Yeah, because she lived in Southern Ontario. So yeah, you have to go across to... I think Donna McKechnie, isn't she, is from Detroit and she says Detroit sometimes in interviews.
Detroit.
Yeah, I love it. But yeah, I have memories of that. Yeah, but obviously I can't dance, so it was not a show I could ever set my hat at.
So what was, this is my next question, what was the first musical you were ever personally involved with?
Well, I wish I didn't have to be factual here because the parts got better if I say later ones, but you're a truth teller, so I'm going to tell you the truth. I think it was an Amdram production of Little Shop of Horrors when I was about 15. And of course, I wanted to play Seymour and I just could see it happening. And there was a guy in my year, very talented, and he ended up going to Lanes actually later, and he got Seymour. And I was, from memory, Skip Snip and in the ensemble. So Skip Snip, if you know it, in Act 2, he's one of the 3 people that come in The Meek Shall Inherit.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I did that.
It's a great name for a character.
Yeah, and it's an incredible show. And then I think I did it again a few years later, and I was one of the bums. That's when you go. And I was also, I think, Patrick Martin, who is another person. Patrick Martin, Mrs. Luce, and Skip Snip, who do that Meek Shall Inherit song. So I always circled Seymour, but never played him. But I'm not bitter.
I circled Audrey a lot as well. Never got there. It sounds to me like, you know, you say there was somebody that went to Lanes from your school. Was your school very good with theatre stuff, or did people just work through it and get there?
Was it very good with theatre stuff? No, it wasn't very good. It certainly wasn't a hotbed of talent that then went on to RADA, LAMP, whatever. But there were 2 very good drama teachers. The first one particularly was called Carol Howard, Mrs. Howard. And I think she left when I was like 2nd, 3rd year. I remember she gave me an A- for drama in 2nd year when I was about 12, 13. The thing I think that knocked the extra mark off, she said, Paul has a tendency to be over exuberant. It's funny when you remember your review.
In a drama class.
I know, in a drama class. So no, it wasn't. But I mean, Merseyside, Manchester, you know, at that time, if you stand near people in bus queues in the town where I'm from, you get stories from people. Do you know what I mean? It's a very warm, engaging, observant, people are interested in other people. But no, you didn't see an easy trajectory towards a career in the entertainment industry, not at all. Although 7 years above me, and he'd left before I got there, was Andy Burnham, who's now Mayor of Manchester.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Love Andy Burnham.
Yes.
And so when you're sort of saying about the Amdram,
yeah,
what then drew you to that? Was there somebody there that was a mate of yours? Or
yeah, I had some friends who did it, Caroline, so it was that. And I didn't join when I was like 6. I joined when I was about 15, and I did maybe 3 or 4 shows there, including, now if I can move away from early credits,
one you can show off now.
I did Tobias in Sweeney Todd, and I just remember loving doing that.
Oh, I bet.
So yeah, I was there, and then I went off to university, kind of that was it. But I did a band band of about 2 or 3 years there. And it was a good quality company, you know, as they often are.
Yeah.
And it is that funny thing now. We often work, don't we, Caroline, in quite truncated rehearsal periods. So Extraordinary Women, that you were so brilliant in, that you mentioned before, we had 3 weeks, and that was a 2-act brand new musical. Admittedly, these were evening rehearsals and weekends at Sweeney Todd, but I think maybe we'll have started rehearsals in the January and performed in the June.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, so
Ours were like 6 monthly.
yeah, it's like elephanting pregnancies, isn't it? But yeah, you make great friendships there. And I remember if I wasn't in the show for that period, I would page turn for the pianist.
Oh, lovely.
So I remember seeing like Calamity Jane and like Viva Mexico, not a show that you'd necessarily do anymore. Yeah. And so, yeah, and some, I'm sure it was the same for you, Caroline, that some of those people who rated you or looked out for you, and they could have been much older. So this woman that I page turned the piano for, she was called Margaret Clayton, and she must have been in her early 60s when I got to know her. And then when I was at university and then when I was at Lambda, she would come and see those shows,
Yeah.
you know, and she was in her 70s by then. And just sidebar about Margaret Clayton is she was a teacher formerly before she retired. Obviously, she was a pianist for the GNS societies and the various societies in Wigan and the town where I'm from. And she was one of Ian McKellen's infant school teachers.
Wow.
Isn't it?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you might remember I did a concert of Gypsy with Joe Goodwin and Alex Parker on the creative team, and we had 7 different Mama Roses over the course of that evening with this incredible orchestra. And it so happened that Ian McKellen was sat next to me, and so I was able to chat to him briefly at the interval, and he was lovely.
Wow.
And he remembered her and told me a little story about her, which I won't share, but she was a great woman, and probably a lot of people who go into drama and dramatics at that really formative time of their teenagerhood. If somebody says you've got a gift or maybe there's a path for you here, especially if you don't hear it from your parents, and I was very close, and still am very close to my parents, but it wasn't a kind of, you're brilliant, you know, it wasn't praise, because that's not how we were brought up. You know, there was a phrase in the part of Lancashire where I'm from where they say you don't praise your own.
Right.
Because it's seen about, maybe it breeds being conceited or something. I certainly praise my children. But when you get that praise, it can kind of light a little fire in you, and you think, actually, you know, because when careers officers come into school and you say you like working outdoors and they say, oh, well, you could be a lumberjack or a tree surgeon, it's not going to happen, is it? But, you know, it can sometimes take somebody else to see something in you. And there were certainly some people in my childhood that did that for me.
It was actually an Amdram rehearsal that I remember somebody telling me it was my Auntie Pauline. They were all my aunties and uncles because
I've got an Auntie Pauline, a genuine Auntie Pauline.
yeah, because my mum and dad were in the Amdram, and when I was little, so as politeness in Wales, you call every adult that your mum and dad are friends with auntie, so auntie and uncle. So my Auntie Pauline Bader, I remember her praising me for something I'd done. We'd done The Sound of Music or something like that, and saying, oh, well, you could be professional.
Wow.
And I went, I don't know what that means. And she said, oh, well, you can be an actress as a job. And that blew my mind. I didn't know that that was a thing. So, you know, if she hadn't have said that, maybe I would never have done this.
Especially, Caroline, because neither of us grew up near the epicentre of theatre, which is London. You know, it wasn't a quick 10-minute tube ride away.
Yeah, massively far away. It was a big day out to go to London and see anything. And I didn't see a show in London until I was about 13. And even then, I didn't think they were getting paid to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, that's just what we do, you know.
It's incredible, but she saw that in you and said, this is something that exists.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Funny you should mention that about London. I first saw a show in London when I was 16. The earliest I was in London, I was 13, and my dad and my brother are massive football fans for Bolton Wanderers, shout out. And they got to the Sherpa Van Trophy, which doesn't exist anymore, and they won 4-1 against Torquay in 1989.
Right.
And in the days that you could, my dad, to kill time before we went to Wembley Stadium, he drove us around near Buckingham Palace. I don't think you'd be able to do that necessarily as easily nowadays.
Oh.
So yeah, it wasn't the bright lights of Shaftesbury Avenue, it was the Twin Towers of Wembley.
Which is probably a lot of people's experience.
Sure.
I think maybe we did. We didn't do the Twin Towers of Wembley. Sorry, we're literally just nattering now. Sorry.
I would say poor Aaron in Australia boiling alive.
Sorry, Aaron. It wasn't the Twin Towers of Wembley, but I think I must have been 8 or 9, and we went up to London to Wembley Arena.
Oh, yes.
And it was just after Torvill and Dean had won the Olympics, and we went to see Torvill and Dean skating in their first professional tour at Wembley Arena.
Incredible. We are the same age, Caroline.
Really
So I know exactly what a hot ticket that would have been.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Huge. And we went to their very first night as well. It was amazing. And then I actually ended up meeting them through Scarlett and Summer Strallen because Bonnie Langford was on tour with them and she got me to meet them. And I was trying to be very cool. And then Scarlett and Summer started telling them, that I'd seen their very first ever professional tour night and everything.
Amazing.
And then they looked at me sort of like, wow. And I just burst into tears.
They were incredible, weren't they?
Yeah.
Incredible. And that trainer, Betty, in the stands, it would always cut to her being with them for the march.
Betty Calloway.
I love it. And the last thing, Aaron will cut all this, I'm sure. Do you remember in 94 when they came back for that Olympics and got bronze, Caroline? And there was that illegal lift over the head in Let's Face the Music and Dance.
I can't talk about
in
it.
Lillehammer.
I still can't talk about it. Sorry. It upset me too much. Also, one of the reasons I love musical theatre, because a lot of their skating was...
Oh, they're Barnum and Macamé. Incredible.
Barnum and Macamé, but
incredible.
Yeah, amazing.
Are we up to question 2?
We must move on to question 3.
I'll talk fast
Question
now.
3. So, apart from the musicals that you have worked on, which one have you seen the most?
I would probably say Guys and Dolls. It's so often done. It's such a classic, isn't it? I've probably seen a lot of Guys and Dolls. And I've probably seen quite a few Sweet Charities. And I bow to no one in loving Cy Coleman. I think he was a genius. And Dorothy Fields, brilliant lyricist. But I've seen enough of that show now. Do you sometimes get that with a show when you think, you know what, 7 is fine? I've seen that one 7 times.
Yeah.
There's all the shows I didn't see. So they're the ones that come to mind, I would say. Oh, and actually, sidebar, I ushered at the National when I was at drama school. It was £4 an hour we got in that era for a shift. And I must have seen Candide about 60 times, which was Daniel Evans and Alex Kelly and Beverly Cline, Clive Rowe. Yeah.
I saw that a lot. I was very good friends with Carrie-Anne Gregory in it because we had literally just played the 2 sisters in Into the Woods together.
Which I saw you twice in. You were brilliant in Into the Woods at the Donmar, yeah.
Thank you very much.
True.
And that was a wonderful season. It was the ensemble season, wasn't it, at the National, where they did Summerfolk and Merchant of Venice and Candide. And I think I saw Candide 3 times because it was so fabulous. Talking of Guys and Dolls, because I think just as I started in the business, Guys and Dolls was on at the National with Joe Riding, and it was that revival of the Richard Eyre production.
I did see it, yeah.
Did you? I never got to see that.
I did. And you know what? And isn't it kismet? Isn't it funny, life? I've not thought about this since that day. The person, Margaret Clayton, that pianist and musical director that I was talking about, I went to see it with her on the train and matinee.
Oh, wow.
And it would have been 1996, I think. And it was Imelda Staunton, Henry Goodman and Joanna Riding. And brilliant Clive Rowe, and I think Sharon Dee was in it as well.
Yeah, I never saw that. So even with not seeing that one, there have still been, I think, 3 or 4 big West End productions of it. There was the Michael Grandage one.
Yeah, that's right.
Then the one that transferred from Chichester, and now one recently at the Bridge. There have been a lot.
Incredible, that immersive one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The score is unforgettable, isn't it? And I think, if you're going to go and see that show, your ears are going to be happy. If not, the rest of you, you're going to rely on that.
I couldn't agree more. It's supple, isn't it? All the good ones can be not messed about with. I don't mean messed about with, but you can take a fresh look at. There's lots of clever things in that Bridge production, but I thought it was so clever what they did with Marry the Man Today. Do you remember they were in that kind of speakeasy at the bar? I thought, what a clever thing, because they're normally, I think, on 2 boxes with the newspaper deliveries, in the street. And I thought, what a clever way of just taking a different look at those women in that song.
And it freed them up, didn't it, to be more open with each other and to go on those sort of wild fits of fancy.
Totally.
I really like what you say about taking a fresh look at something, because there are a lot of shows out there that say they're reinventing it, which I sometimes want to go, actually, do you know what? The reason it's good is not because you think you've reinvented it, but because it's a good show. And I think sometimes taking a fresh look is a better way of saying that.
Yeah.
Because you're going, I respect the piece. I know it's good. I want to look at it with a slightly different pair of eyes. This year and this decade is putting that lens on for you.
Totally. And I thought another good example of that was that South Pacific that they did at Chichester a few years ago with Julian Ovenden and
Gina Beck.
The brilliant Gina Beck.
Yeah.
And Joanna Rampel. Because I think those of us who do a lot of our career in musicals, you walk a tightrope, don't you? And revival is a terrible word. But I think if you put a bomb under a piece and you think, would the original creators recognise anything because of the way that you've tampered with this. But we also can't walk the audience back to 1949 and have them have the same attitudes and values, and nor should we. So if you can work with the material and the bones and the flesh of the material, but take, I can't think of a better word than fresh, a really jaded, fresh look. Why now? Why this? Why those people? But I think if you are there just to send a grenade into the piece, write something of your own, do something of your own, because you're reliant on the fact that these people are not there to disagree with you. But I couldn't be less interested in museum piece work where, you know, well, in the original, they moved downstage left on this. You know, you've got to wonder why the piece speaks to us now and take a fresh look at it.
Absolutely. And do it justice rather than going, I'm going to put this show on because I know it puts bums on seats. But what's going to put extra bums on seats is going, but yeah, we're going to set it in space and or we're all going to be in tutus or, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, that's just greedy and silly and disrespectful. Take the piece, know it puts bums on seats and do what you can to appeal to the extra bums.
Yeah, exactly. And if they're good pieces, they're supple. They can take some readjustments and tweaking. But for me, I always think it's a bit like when you go to an optician doing good work, you know, where they put the lenses in front of you and they put the different lens prescriptions and they say better with or without and with or without. So you're constantly making adjustments. Yeah, I can't think of a better analogy, really.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And I think, you know, like you say, we've seen all these big, huge productions of Guys and Dolls. And I remember each one of them and for different reasons.
Distinctive.
Yeah, really, really good. And that bridge one, I just...
It was clever,
you know,
brilliant.
I honestly felt like I'd visited New York that night. It was so special.
Well, you can't pay a higher compliment to them than that. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So, Paul, my next question is... which musical has made you laugh the most and which has made you cry the most?
The things that came easier to think about for that question was the crying bit. I don't know if that says more about me or there's a couple of shows. And there's two that just jump instantly to mind. One is Sunday in the Park with George, particularly the Menier production, which I didn't see it at Wyndham's, but I saw it at the Menier. So you felt incredible to have got a ticket because, as you know, it only seats 200 and a few. And it was an incredible cast and an incredible take on the production. And it was Anna Jane Casey and Daniel Evans playing opposite each other. So I'm talking about 21 years ago.
Oh, God, was it that long ago?
I know, don't. We were 4. When they did We Do Not Belong Together, honestly, and I'm not over emotional kind of thing, but I swear to you, I did not leave my seat in the interval. It was like a stun gun. It was brilliantly done. Anna Jane broke your heart. Absolutely broke your heart. And the two of them were so well matched. And I just remember almost the usher having to say, are you all right? Just because when that material joins with good casting, you can't quite beat it. And I remember that. And then I remember I've not been to New York many times in my life because my family live in the city of Chicago. So that's where we tend to go.
Oh, lovely.
But I went to see Fun Home in New York, that original production. Lisa Crone and Ginny Tesori. Beth Malone doing a song called Telephone Wire towards the end of it was just unimprovable. It felt like you couldn't grab your coat and just make your way out of the theatre. You just had to sit with that story and the feelings it made you feel.
That is the exact same impact it had on my husband, on Mike. When he went out there, I wasn't out there with him because he was out there doing some work. He saw it and rang me afterwards and he was destroyed pretty much by it.
Yeah.
2 days later, he came home and even talking about it moved him. He was still crying from talking about it.
You'd be brilliant. I could be your casting director here. You'd be brilliant as either Big Alison or as Helen in that show, Helen Bechtel. You'd be incredible as that, Caroline.
I would love to do it. They're doing it somewhere, aren't they? But I think...
yeah, we'll need to say it to the right ears.
Put it out there now.
But I feel to answer your question about laughter, we're both friends with Mark Antolin, aren't we? So I need to go and see Mark in The Producers, and maybe then I'll say, oh, The Producers has made me laugh the most.
Yes.
But the one that sprang to mind, and it was charming, but you can laugh at things that are charming, I would say was Romantics Anonymous at the San Wanamaker that Emma Rice did a few years ago.
Oh, yes. Now, I only saw that on the live stream.
Okay, how did it go on that?
They did a live stream of it. Or not a live stream, but a
capture.
Pay-per-view kind of thing. And Mark went into it straight after doing Camelot that we were talking about earlier in lockdown. And I think when they started rehearsals, they all went into a bubble and stayed in that bubble. So they, differently from Camelot, where we were still socially distanced, apart from Mike and I, because we were in a bubble, that they didn't have to be bubbled. And I remember there was one bit where he just put his his hand out and Carly held it. It was so moving because we weren't allowed to do that in that time.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was pretty, really pretty.
Yeah, I agree.
Like you say, a charming show.
Yeah, quite like She Loves Me, isn't it? It's charm, isn't it? But there was lots of mirth, and because a lot of them were multi-rolling and playing cameo parts, there was a lot of lovely froth because of that. So that's certainly one that I'd like to see again with my funny bone.
Yeah, I think that's worth a little revival, because I think that was a very special show that I don't think enough people know it
I agree.
and saw it. So yeah, definitely yes to that, and definitely yes to go and seeing Mark in The Producers.
Yes, let's sort.
Yes, that would be fabulous. Paul, my confession question. As you know from listening to the podcast, I have never seen a professional production of West Side Story or Sweet Charity.
You can have mine.
I've never seen either. Isn't that terrible? Is there a musical that you regret you haven't seen?
Well, I'm going to say one from quite recently that I'm kicking myself I didn't see, and then one from it would have been hard because of when I was born to have seen it. So Memphis, I heard such brilliant things about at the Shaftesbury.
Yeah.
And that was meant to be a cracking show. And I'm a big Beverly Knight fan. I think it should have run longer. So I kick myself that I didn't see that. I'm sure if I look at your bar charts, a lot of people have probably said that Carousel at the National with Trisha Routledge and Joe Riding. And
Yeah.
I would love to have seen that. But I think I'm going to go even further back. And this was on in the year that we were born, Caroline. So unless we could have seen From Out of the Womb, it would have been hard for us to go and see it. Whereas the original Side by Sondheim with Julie Mackenzie and David Kernan and Millicent Martin.
Oh, yeah.
I had that double CD. I wore that out. Or basically Julie Mackenzie in anything musical.
Oh, every now and then, if I need a bit of inspiration, and every now and then, Stephen Mear puts it on Facebook or Instagram.
Brilliant, Stephen Mear. They're great friends, aren't they? Him and Julie Mackenzie.
Yeah, he puts a video of her singing Broadway Baby, and it's just class on a stick.
Unbelievable
The
technique.
choices she makes. And the other thing I saw her do, which is actually a song that I do a lot because of the Welsh connection, is The Boy From, which, ends in the big long Welsh word,
Yes, yeah.
which I didn't realise until recently. It's probably far funnier if you hear someone trying to say it badly.
Word, you could toss it off brilliantly, I would have thought, Caroline.
And someone going, look at me, I can say this really long Welsh word. Still gets a laugh. But she did it. And, I've sung that song a lot. And I was like, oh, I wonder how she's going to sing. And I watched her singing it on this video. And her choices were so surprising and not expected or predictable. And I was like, oh, wow, she is absolute class, I think.
She could do it all.
Yeah.
She could do it all, couldn't she? She was a showgirl enough for the dancing, and then the acting is unbelievable, and her singing. So I might say Follies. Maybe I'll say Julie Mackenzie in Follies then, or to see the full show. You can see Diana Rigg as well. And sometimes I like to feel I'm down with the KIDZ. And sometimes you worry about bringing out a name. I'm not saying yesteryear because she's still with us and she's still a vibrant person. But I think sometimes when students studying musical theatre are looking for inspiration, I do hope they bring the calendar back a little bit, as well as the incredible exponents that are out today, because I think you watch Julie Mackenzie phrase something and you'll learn as much from watching her do 2 or 3 different songs as you would probably learn in a term of acting through song classes.
I absolutely agree.
Her voice can do anything. She's such a natural actress. That is a big regret. Maybe I'll work with her. Let's deal some tarot cards and let's see. But she meant a lot to me growing up. With the link with Sondheim, but also because I just thought she was just incredible. And that Broadway Baby was on I think it was a Royal Variety performance.
Yeah, it was.
91 or something like that. And I remember having that on VHS tape and I watched that again. And you remember the dancers part, don't they? They play a bit from Follies and then the dancers split and she walks down. And it's about restraint, isn't it? She's impish and she gets the character across. And then in that final verse, she just lets rip and it's incredible. Yeah, so I'll just say anything with Julie Mackenzie singing in it.
Yeah, absolutely fabulous. And that carousel as well, that National Theatre carousel, I didn't get to that. I think my dad went. I think my mum might have taken me to see Les Mis for the 4th time or something. And my dad's like, I can't sit through that again. I still listen to the cast recording of that. I think it's sublime. And then other times, I'll listen to a new cast recording or a different cast recording of Carousel. I love listening to that opening waltz. And some of them just don't have the thrill that National Theatre Orchestra have playing that. I don't know what it is about the musical direction of it, but it just gets you somewhere inside. And then, the performances are so fabulous.
And isn't Joanna Riding out of this world on that album?
She must have been so young doing it as well.
Out of this with the choices, the
Oh,
lightness she brings to her voice at the start, and then the heaviness she brings to her voice at the end. It's alchemy, isn't it? Incredible. We've got all this talent in this industry.
yeah, it really is. Let's invent that time machine and go back there.
Please, yeah,
Paul,
please.
let's have a little break and listen to some little messages and come back for Act 2. So, on Talk Musicals to me, I thought I would use this opportunity to support some friends of mine who have small businesses. And I put a message out on my social media to see who would get in touch and to see how I can help them amplify their voices. So, I have a couple of ones that I would like to mention today. So this one is from my friend John Charters, who runs a small business specialising in accounting for the arts, self-employed actors, musicians and stage management, as well as small production companies. Friendly advice and good value for anyone who wants to get in touch at fresheyesfinance.co.uk. And this is from a dear mummy pal of mine called Lucy McCrudden, who runs a non-profit called Dance Mama, which is dedicated to supporting parents who dance on and off stage. With evidence-based information and support, plus over 80+ stories, we help parents continue their careers in dance from a physical, mental, creative and logistical viewpoint. Check out www.dancemama.org to see how they can help you navigate your career as a parent. And finally, Jessica runs something that sounds like great fun, a thing called Showtime Circus, which can be found at Showtime_circus on Instagram. It's a circus school franchise and helps other small business owners franchise or license their business. It's based in Birmingham, but I think there's lots of them around the country. So get online and have a look if you want to learn some circus skills. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of Talk Musicals to Me with the lovely Paul Foster. Thank you, Paul.
Pleasure, Caroline.
Having such fun talking to you. I really like talking to you because literally we were at school the exact same year, did all the same kind of things. And it's just so easy because we have the exact same timeline. I didn't realise how important that can sometimes be, and I love it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So talking of school, actually, and that wasn't... That wasn't actually a link I was intending.
Incredible segue. You should be on GMTV.
Which musical would you put on the school curriculum?
I think this is such a good and hard question. The one that came to mind, and I have mentioned it earlier in our chat, is probably Blood Brothers, which I know has historically sometimes been on a GCSE syllabus. But I think what you want to do is you want a title that's going to try and grip as many of those young people in that class as possible, isn't it? You're not wanting to split them. You're wanting to bring a story that's going to bring them. And I think that's got such a lot to say about identity and forks in the road, which I think young people are dealing with. Should I take this path? Should I take the other path? And class, I think it's a proper look at the class system in this country. And obviously we know that that is still very pervasive. And I think it has a strong woman at the centre of it. And I think some of the titles that canonically people have been encouraged to study, the women are often sidelined, peripheral, whereas that woman's decisions drive that whole story. So that's the one that came to mind, Caroline.
Yeah, no, I agree. The other woman in it is strong as well, isn't she?
Mrs. Lyons.
Mrs. Lyons. I couldn't remember her name. Thank you. I'm so with you on what you say about the class system as well. I always find it really interesting to talk to American actors who do what we do. And they were saying, you know, they feel it. They feel it in the class system when they work with British people and like British producers. They feel like there's much more of a hierarchy than they feel with when you're working with American producers, which I find really interesting. And they were like, it's because of the British class system. And I was like, wow, it pervades, you know.
Yeah, and I'm not getting on any high horse, but I think as well, there are so few working class stories on stage. And I think sometimes when they're done in a way that makes you think, it's a bit of kind of class tourism by the director.
Yeah.
You know, thrilled to be going out to Waitrose in their lunch break. You know, whereas I think done well, I remember I was so floored, I'm sure you saw it as well, Caroline, by Rachel Wooding's performance in Standing at the Sky's Edge.
Yeah.
Now, I think Rob and the whole team and Ben Stones' design, I think the whole team, Chris, everyone did a wonderful job on that. And growing up in this, I'm not saying it's a hard scrabble existence, but you were certainly coppering up by the end of every month. And my mum's probably her best friend. She passed away quite young, but her friend was Christine. And I couldn't get over Rachel in that show, in that kitchen, on that set, in like a kind of like Angora look jumper. And it was a scene by the end that was in the 80s. I just thought, I can give you no higher compliment. It feels like documentary because they have bothered to look through a class lens that feels honest and not judgmental and not pejorative and not just to get a few cheap laughs and then let's go back to the middle class family in a minute. And it made me think how rare it is to see a proper authentic depiction of working class life on stage. And maybe we'll talk about it later, but a dream show for me would be to direct Spend.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think similarly that has the class system and what it's like to be a working class person in the North that gets 15 minutes of fame and what that might do to you.
Yeah, that's another show that I saw at the Watermill. I think the very first show I ever saw at the Watermill.
That was a brilliant production.
It was an actor-musician production of that with Kirsty Hoyles, one of my besties, who I adore.
Brilliant Kirsty Hoyles and Karen Mann. Yeah, Sarah's arrangements, Craig's direction and choreography. It was a fantastic production. Yeah.
And I was sitting in like the worst seats you can sit in at the Watermill. You know exactly what ones they are. The balcony on the side, literally looking at the top of people's heads. And I adored it. I just, absolutely adored it. It was fabulous production. Yeah. Oh, Rachel Wooding.
Heartbreaking.
The whole show was just beautiful. But that I do think that was my favourite story strand out of all of them.
Because it's so rare, Caroline.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
It's really, we never think about it because it doesn't get any column inches, but it's so rare. And she took her opportunities. And I was lucky because I saw that both times in its Sheffield incarnations. I think it was Christmas. It was 2019 and then they did it again in 2022 before it came to the Olivier. Yeah, she was just raw and brilliant. Yeah, I'll never forget her performance.
I'll be messaging her later going, you've got to listen to this podcast.
Oh, I've met her once. I think she's Bradford or West Yorkshire.
Yeah, she is. Yeah. Because I worked with her straight after working with you.
Oh, yeah, you did Military Wives.
Yeah. Our characters locked horns a few times and it was fabulous. And I was playing, not that I am a posh bitch because I'm a working class Welsh girl.
Exactly, Caroline. Let's clear that up now.
Just so everyone knows. But somehow I get cast as them and you'll be seeing that this year. It was fabulous. So my next question is, which forgotten musical would you like to see remounted?
Well, I don't know if Spend is forgotten. I went to university in Leeds and I worked on the box office at the West Yorkshire Playhouse, it's now the Leeds Playhouse again. And so I saw the original production of that Spend.
First one, Rosie Ash.
Yeah, brilliant Sophie Louise Dan, brilliant Rosemary Ash. And Viv Nicholson. Should I just say for the listeners, I'm sure there are plenty of listeners who know what that show's about.
Yes, tell the story of it.
It's set in, Yorkshire it would have been then, in 1961 and thereabouts. And it's a working class family. I want to say Huddersfield way, and her husband wins the pools and wins the equivalent of I think about £3 million in today's money or something, so life altering. And it's the rags to riches and then sadly to rags again story of that woman and her family, and there's bereavement and alcohol and moving to America. Stephen Sondheim, to name drop, was on record at saying he thought it was the best British musical since Oliver.
Wow.
He couldn't get over it when he saw it at the Piccadilly, so I would love to do that show. And it doesn't come around very often. But again, some shows you feel like you wouldn't need to Wikipedia to get into it. I feel like I can umbilically connect with those people in those pubs and that mining story of it. But the one I would say that I think is quite forgotten is The Most Happy Fella by Frank Lesser. And that's the one that I would love to do. And it's kind of almost an opera. It's in 3 acts. And it's about a mail-order love affair and the ramifications from a mistaken identity story. And for those people who think Guys and Dolls is his best score, I think this is his best score. It's never going to happen. But I would love to do that show because it is stunning.
It's got that beautiful quartet in it, hasn't it? Is it a quartet or it's like a barbershop-y? Da-da-da-da-da-da, watching all the girls go by. That beautiful song.
Standing on the Corner.
In drama colleges now, I think some of the audition process is they provide you with a list of songs that you can choose to sing from.
Yeah.
And a few of them are from The Most Happy Fella. So it is being reintroduced to this sort of younger generation.
Yeah.
And hopefully they will be exploring it. The most happy fella is the reason why I put this question in it, because there was a different question I started asking. And then on Georgia Stitt's podcast, she started talking about the most happy fella. And I was like, oh, it would be a nice question to explore. That was literally the reason why. And I think Mike did it in college. His year did it in college.
Yeah.
And so we listened to that score a lot. And I do not know the story of it or anything, but it is beautiful music.
Caroline, I would say, if ever, I mean, I'll never be on Desert Island Discs, but there might be one or two songs from that. Maybe Song of a Summer Night, which I'm probably paraphrasing the title on. But Rebecca Kane, the brilliant soprano Rebecca Kane.
Yes.
She sings Somebody Somewhere, which is one of the lead ladies' songs from that show. And honestly, line, phrasing, style, technique. But Warm All Over, Joey, Joey, Joey. There's some How Beautiful the Days. There's an incredible score.
Isn't there one song about aching feet or something as well?
Yeah, Ooh, My Feet. Yeah, incredible. Oh my God. Yeah, we should do it. But that thing where you cover your answers in exams because you don't want anyone to copy? That for years was a title where I'd say, but as life goes on, we're a long time dead. I'd throw that. I'd just love to see a brilliant production of it because I've never seen it in my lifetime. But it ran the same season as My Fair Lady, so it kind of got slightly overlooked, although it ran for about a year in New York.
Yeah.
But yeah, an incredible, incredible show.
It's that case of needing producers that will take a risk on something that is forgotten and reintroducing it and risking their pocket, isn't it, I suppose, with that situation.
Yeah. And I'm under no illusion, it wouldn't be a year at the Palladium, but in the right place. And the acting, there's about 7 brilliant roles in it. And again, orchestrally, maybe I'll see if Alex Parker will do a stage concert of it or something, because, any musician worth their salt is going to want to play that score. It is out of this world.
I want to do the score. Yeah. Oh, let's put a call in. I really love this next question. Is there a musical out there which inspired you to make a strong choice in your life? I'll tell you why I asked this question, and it's fresh in my head this week because I just went to see Our Town, and that's a play. Obviously, it's not a musical, but I do think you go and see that play and you come out and you live your life slightly differently to how you lived it before you went in, because it teaches you to value every moment and everybody. And that's where I guess this came from. Is there a piece of musical theatre that can do that for you?
Oh, that's such a good question, Caroline. I bet people have such clever answers. Boiling it down, I would say maybe Blood Brothers I saw at school because it made me want to do something to do with storytelling. I can certainly trace a line back to that. I would say I loved, did you see this, Caroline, that incredible production of Hair that came over with Gavin Creel and Will Swenson and Casey Levy?
I didn't see it.
Incredible. Oh my God. And that just made you feel alive. That party at the end, like Let the Sun Shine, that celebration of life and living, and you get one chance on this planet. And obviously Gavin Creel was just a magician. So that one, you see something and you think, God, I hope the stars align and I could work with you one day. I saw the original Broadway production of Waitress.
Oh yeah.
And Jessie Mueller is just a creature from another world. She's just incredible. And obviously we hear The World and His Wife singing, She Used to Be Mine Now. But to hear her premiere that in the context of how that song comes in the show, and with brilliant people like Keala Settle on stage with her, sometimes you get changed by thinking, do you know what? If you were manifesting, wouldn't it be nice to work with that person? So I got inspired. But yeah, so a few answers. And I hope I'm porous to that question as my life continues.
Yeah.
That you can still be changed by the theatre you go and see, certainly.
Absolutely. It's almost like a different answer for every kind of stage of your life.
Yeah.
Jessie Mueller, she is such a chameleon, isn't she? She's so different in everything she seems to put her mind to, Carole King in Beautiful, Julie Jordan, Waitress. And I wish I'd seen that production of Hair, but when it was on in London was the year that I was out in America and I couldn't.
Okay. Oh, it was wonderful, Caroline.
I heard such wonderful things about it. Actually, I've never seen it. That's another, oh my God, I'm useless, aren't I? Who am I to be presenting this podcast? It's absolute nonsense. But yeah, when Gavin left us, I think people found some footage and put it on. And even just watching that, took my breath away, really. Yeah, I was like, I wish I'd seen that. My friend Liam was in it and said it was fabulous.
Yeah, I went to see him at Ronnie Scott's when he was over here,
wow.
Just singing with a little group of musicians. And he could sing anything, and style off his fingers. But yeah, we need to hug people close, don't we? Because, a life too short. But my God, what he accomplished in that life will never die.
I know, amazing. Burned brightly and just brilliant. aren't we lucky that so many different musicals can move us in so many different ways and bring so much to our lives? It makes me just realize, and I might get on my soapbox a little bit here, is that just how important the arts are in our country and to people's humanity. And I feel like, I've just been out in America, been in New York for a week, and it was wonderful. And I was in New York, you'd meet people and go, oh, like, what are you doing in the city? I'm like, oh, we're going, it's my birthday, we're going to go and see shows. Oh yeah, I saw a Broadway show once. And I'm like, you live here, what are you doing? Go and see, please. And it doesn't even have to be a Broadway show, just any piece of theatre locally in your school. When your school does a production, go and see it. Go and see, go and watch things.
Yeah, we've got to have hope, haven't we? I wonder how much of that link was severed in COVID when for 16 months we didn't really have much live art and we got into the Netflix and that kind of staying in kind of mentality. And also we should talk about how prohibitive, not for school productions, but how prohibitive the pricing structures are these days in theatre.
Oh, absolutely.
And certainly in New York. But yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? The things that we care about as a country sometimes and what perhaps we could care about and how quickly it all goes. Libraries, that were shut down in the early 2010s, they don't come back.
No.
It's that Joni Mitchell thing, isn't it? Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? It's exactly the same thing. We need to make a case for it more. I think we're sometimes quite sheepish about making a case for it. So, yeah, I mean, I've got 2 daughters and my eldest is actually at drama school and my youngest can't bear to be in the spotlight, but she's a brilliant drawer. So she might think about maybe set or costume or something like that. And you just think, God, when I went to Lambda and we were taught in our first term that this industry is 93% unemployment. And that's such a stark statistic to have said to you. But in a way, you think, well, because I'm at a good drama school, maybe, the ratio's higher for me or whatever. But it's such a precarious industry, but it can bring such joy to people. And we can find the money for, without being soapboxy, we can find the money for the weapons and the warfare. I just think we should find the money for the things that feed our soul as well. But I think as a nation, we're quite back foot. In COVID, I just was writing to my MP or signing things because I grew up, with the Royal Exchange near to me, and I think they had to make 30% of their staff redundant at that time. Costume and the set, we're just decimating people who have worked for years, and these skills, we don't come back. But to be optimistic, we've got to inspire, haven't we? Because it can keep you going.
Yeah, keep telling the stories. And Paul, sorry, this is a little extra question here because we haven't really sort of hit on it. You went to Lambda, you trained as an actor, you worked as an actor. What was your journey then into going, actually, I'd actually quite like to direct this rather than just...
I acted for 8 years, and I would just say to people listening, it was feast and famine. I did good work, and I had many months where I didn't act, and I was doing clerical and admin and temping to afford to stay in London. And then my eldest daughter was born when I was 30, and I just remember thinking it's really hard when you've got a child for waiting for your agent's number to come up on it was a Nokia handset then, as an incoming call, to define what you might be doing, and that felt very precarious. I'd always directed. I directed a bit at university, directed a bit at drama school, and maybe it's a myth, but I thought, maybe directors have a bit more control. But I'm glad I acted. I learned a lot being in rehearsal rooms as an actor. You learn what approach works well, what less well, and why. And I think, Marianne Elliott, the great Marianne Elliott, always says, bad direction is that fatal thing where you say, oh, can you be sexy here or can you be funny here? Whereas what we're trying to do always is show people the Hansel and Gretel bread trail that gets from that to that, and it's about the process. So I think for a spell I had a ludicrous idea that I could do both, and we don't like people to be good at many things in this country. And actually I'm a much better director than I ever was an actor, but I'm really glad that I had that time because I think I'm more useful in a rehearsal room because of it.
I feel like Judi Dench directed a few times. I feel like maybe she did something at Regent's Park.
Yeah, certainly successfully happened many times, but I just couldn't square that circle personally.
It's hard though, isn't it? Like Dan Evans, he acts now and again, but it's mainly directing, isn't it? Obviously now he's running the RSC. He's put himself in one play, I think, but I feel like for a long time he literally said, no, I'm not going to do any acting. I've got to sort of, I guess, make your reputation as a director, especially if you've been known as an actor first. But that's the thing, like, part of me, I would love to direct something one day, but at the same time I don't want people to think I've given up acting. Isn't that a weird thing?
It's interesting, isn't it? How we always have to bear that in mind for some reason.
Yeah.
But I think the most corrosive thing is regret, isn't it, Caroline? So if you want to, try it.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember Daniel Evans, we both seen him be brilliant on stage. His Charlie Kringas, did you see him in that Merrily We Roll Along?
I did.
Oh my God, unbelievable.
Fabulous.
And his Kringaline in Grand Hotel, amazing.
Yeah. I mean, you know what we're saying about the arts and the eras that we've both been the same age for. The things we got to see are fabulous, aren't they? And I feel like, do we look back on it and go, was that a golden age? You know, there was a period where the Donmar was doing a musical every year. And I just absolutely took that for granted. And then that stopped. And now it's once in a blue moon. And understandably so, because budgets are so stretched. And I know it's so much more expensive to put on a musical than to put on a play. And I sort of look back and go, did I realize this was amazing when I was there? And now I look back and miss it? Or will I, in 10 years' time, look back on this time and go, oh, actually, that was a really good time?
Yeah, I think ticket prices, I just don't really qualify for any of the discounts anymore. I find it really hard to go with any regularity to afford to because, it's a pair of school shoes.
Yeah, exactly.
I went to see that brilliant production of The Great Comet at the Donmar and I paid £15 and I stood at the back. So I think we sometimes think, oh yeah, well, we can shell out, 60 quid, 90 quid. But to get a seat where you can see anything, it's really, really hard. So I think we look back sometimes because we maybe had student discounts or something like that as well, although equity get us something, doesn't it? But yeah, I think the price is horrific.
I often say this on my podcast. When I was at GSA, the Yvonne Arnaud Theatre in Guildford would have something new on every single week. And it would start on a Monday. It was never a Tuesday. It was a Monday night. And on a Monday night, they would do £5 tickets for the students from GSA. And I went every Monday. I was there with my £5, paying to see whatever was on. And it was such an education. Now there's not even anything on a Monday because that's the travel day now. Or the set.
It's true, isn't it? Did you watch, Caroline? We'd been the same age still. That South Bank show that Judi Dench did in about 96 when she's rehearsing Little Night Music.
I have it on video.
Yeah, it's a wonderful, if anyone, I'm sure it's on YouTube, it's an hour long and she's rehearsing Little Night Music and playing Absolute Hell by evening. And it's about the process. And she talks about when she was a young actor standing in the wings and watching. And then if she knew she was going into a theatre, like I think when she auditioned for Sally Bowles, she went to watch what was in that theatre auditorium before her, what show it was. And I say when I'm talking to youngsters at drama schools, watch. And I say that and it sounds, that's an entitlement thing, isn't it? But I think at drama schools, you still get your really cheapies or you can get free into the dress rehearsal sometimes or into previews. And I ushered all through my time at drama school. And to watch things and you work out why something works well and maybe why it didn't. Is it about where you stood on the stage? Is it about what the other actor's doing just as they're delivering their cue line? Is there something about the lighting quality on it? You learn so much by watching. And Judi Dench says something very similar on that South Bank show. And I've learned that. It's so true. I always am very impressed when actors in a tech come into the auditorium when they know they're not going to miss a quick change or something by being in the auditorium, because you work out where the sweet spots are on the stage and, okay, so this seems to be the tone of the scene that precedes mine. And I think watching. So you being at the Yvonne Arnaud on a Monday, £5, very well spent.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually saw the very first performance of that play, Cellmates. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, the Simon Gray play, yes. So did you see Stephen Fry in it?
I did. I saw Stephen Fry in it with Rick Mayall.
Wow, that ticket's probably worth a lot.
Yeah, I think I've got the programme still upstairs somewhere.
Knowing you have.
But yeah, special times. So what's the secret to a good musical?
Collaboration.
There it is.
I would say collaboration in the writing, an effective, harmonious collaboration in the writing, and similarly in the creative and production team that's bringing it together from both sides, in the originators of it and in the developers, in the people who bring it to life, physical life. I think you need to have a trust with your collaborators that you can say to them without being offensive. If you're forever giving everyone ticks like a school teacher, we're never going to get anywhere. So we need to recognise the things that are working and then roll our sleeves up and attend to the things that aren't working. But if you're talking about the craft of a good musical, I would often say a good book writer and good book scenes, because we both know from people who've, done a lot of musicals, sometimes you're having to try and mask poor dialogue, do little trims or maybe put some underscoring underneath that. Whereas if you've got a show like Gypsy with that Arthur Lawrence book, the dialogue is absolutely superb, does exactly what it needs to do, rather than is just a couple of pages of filler until what we're all there for, which is the next song. So I would say quality collaboration and a good book writer.
I agree. What you were saying about, the Gypsy script, I learnt this when I was doing Funny Thing Happened on the way to the Forum. I remember the director there, that was Ed Hall, just saying this script is lean. And I was like, that's a very strange way of describing a script. And what he meant was there's no extra fat on it. Everything in it is there for a reason, for a rhythm, for a beat, for a story, for a character. There's nothing in it that isn't entirely necessary for this show to work. It went like clockwork, that show. It's almost like you could put any team on that, on no matter what skill set, and that would work because it's almost like cogs in a wheel. And I think that's so important and so hard as well. I mean, we both worked on a new musical this year, and I know that was a very long time coming, wasn't it?
In the genesis of it.
Yeah. And how is that? Because you've worked on a lot of big revivals and then working on something new. How is that for you?
Well, I can give you the most recent thing because obviously I was very lucky. I did Jake and Pippa's new musical, Treasure Island, that we've just done at Bristol Old Vic very happily. And they are a quality operation, the two of them. You have to roll your sleeves up and you have to not settle and not be satisfied with something until it's absolutely finessed as much as it possibly can. And I think what they did so cleverly in that was the variety of their score. There'd be a beautiful ballad. And anyone listening to this, if you can get the sheet music for a song called Take the Wheel, it's probably one of the best ballads I've heard in musical theatre in the last 10, 15, 20 years. It's a beautiful song. Then there was like a sea shanty which involved the audience. There was something very haunting, very lyrical, something more of a knees up, something very choric with harmonies. So similarly in the show that we did together, you're just trying to make it so, to use that word lean, that there's nothing extraneous. Because I think if you put anything in front of an audience that's fake or that's not really investigated, it's a bit like when you go through an airport with metal on. The audience just know straight away. So you're trying to make sure that there's momentum and there's variety. So the show that I'm doing after Kiss of the Spiderwoman is a brand new piece. And I'm already working with the writer on, with just, not in a dramaturgical way, but just you have to make sure every moment earns its space. And I think the title of this piece, lucky Caroline, in that we work on plays and musicals, but if we just limit it to musicals, they're not easy. They're really, really, really difficult. And as Stephen May said on your podcast, you're trying to always make it, as members of the creative team, that you don't know when the choreographer has begun to work, as the director's begun to work, the orchestrator. It should feel that everything is all a piece, all the tapestry fits together. And that is much, much harder. And I think sometimes people think, oh, I'll do a musical, as if it's just trying a new recipe. And they're really difficult to do well because they're like a high tariff dive in the Olympics. It's hard to make all the levels, especially, and I love dance, I can't dance for toffee, but I appreciate brilliant storytelling through dance. That's got to be good as well. A dance break to push the story forward and to entertain the audience. They're really hard, and I admire anyone who does them well. But new writing is the blood transfusion of theatre, isn't it?
Yeah.
And also, if you're doing, to use the word that's in currency at the moment, a revival, although a fresh look, you have to do it as if it's just been received in your inbox.
Yeah.
You can't put cobwebs all over it or make it like a kind of journey back in time, like when you go to a National Trust property and people are dressed in the clothes of the period. It's got to feel immediate.
Yes, absolutely. It's been tricky, hasn't it, for new musicals for a while? And I think Jake and Pippa are such good news for British musical theatre. We also have so much, like Toby and Lucy from Six.
Yes, we did Six. Toby Marlowe, Lucy Moss, yeah.
It's so exciting to see that.
And The Wicker Man and Benjamin Button. We've got some great stuff, haven't we? We just need to nurture it.
I just want to amplify their voices so that it reaches the corners of the country and everybody hears about it. And there's just got to be a way to do that. So let's get our megaphones and start shouting. I think we're on our last question now, Paul.
Listeners will be thrilled to hear.
Like, finally, Christ. Which musical feeds your soul?
Oh, God, that's so hard. Which musical feeds my soul?
And obviously you can pick one you've worked on here as well.
Go on, I will pick one I've worked on, even though I might have a different choice tomorrow. I would say A Little Night Music, because I'd seen one or two productions of it and I thought it could be, or in the rendition of it, it could be quite chilly. It's quite entitled people in turn of the century Swindon. That would have been a different story. Sweden. Isn't that brilliant? The Wyvern. No, in Stockholm. Complaining or having tiffs. And I thought, well, I can't really find a through line. I can't really connect to, not a through line, I can't find my connection to that piece. And then do you remember that picture? It's a brilliant picture of Debbie Reynolds and Carrie Fisher. And Carrie Fisher's on like a milk stool in the wings as a little girl with a little page boy haircut.
Yes.
And Debbie Reynolds is in a spot on stage, obviously a working actress singer. And there's something about the Desiree and Frederica relationship that I looked into there. And I was really close to my maternal grandmother. So there was something about that Frederica Madame Armfeld relationship and grandparenting that was my way into that musical. But I just think when the reprise of Send in the Clowns happens at the end of the second half, I think it's majestic. And that musical, I think, is a perfect musical. So I will say, today, answering you, Feeding My Soul, I would say any show that's got Everyday Little Death in and The Miller's Son and Weekend in the Country and Send in the Clowns, that'll do for me.
Yeah. And I heard such wonderful things about your production of this at the Watermill.
Bless you for saying that. It was an incredible team. Howard Hudson, David Woodhead, Sarah Travis, Tom Marshall, incredible cast. Yes, Sarah Travis's arrangements for that were just out of this world. His team came over and we had the most wonderful email from Stephen Sondheim about that because word had got back to him in New York from various quarters of different people about it. But yeah, it was a beautiful thing to work on and everybody rose to the occasion. But again, if you've got good material, it's so much easier.
And how does it change for you when you're directing an actor-musician piece? Was that your first actor-musician piece? Have you done it?
It probably was my first full-on in terms of everyone, the whole thing. And no, we didn't duck it. Everybody played and everybody played to a really high standard. And we had 13 actors and I think all told 29 instruments on stage. And so, for instance, there'd been recent productions where there'd been a reduction to 6 or 7 players. Well, they had 13 instrumentalists in ours. I don't think it works for everything. I don't think I'd like to see the West Side Story that's actor-musician. I'd love to do a Stephen Sondheim and James Lapine's Passion. I'd love to do that actor-musician.
Yeah.
The drums that are at the heart of that show, I think, lead itself. And if you think about night music, Frederica starts the show by playing piano exercises and they come back in Glamorous Life as well. And she's told to continue practicing by her grandmother. And then the Liebes Lieder, which is the choric, the framing device. And then Henrik plays the cello in later. So we felt that there was a way in. I think if it's the right thing, it can open a show up beautifully. And you know what? Shows are supple. They'll endure a different go at it. You know, there'll be another production 2 minutes later. So if it's the right thing, and I think the audience are just, when it's done well, their jaws are on the floor because it's like decathletes, what they do. It's incredible. They're required to sing, act, share. And because you have to accompany numbers that you're not in, rather than flicking through Instagram in your dressing room, you're literally playing tuned percussion at the side for your castmate. It bonds a company brilliantly.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I did Crazy for You there the year before Little Night Music, and I had all the two beautiful Gershwin solos, but they weren't solos because I was on stage being held up by these incredibly talented people. The level of human achievement and teamwork and collaboration is second to none on a show like that. And I think that would probably be my thing. What do you regret not seeing is not seeing that production of Little Night Music. And it's literally in the title, isn't it? Music is part of the title.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for saying that, Caroline. I really appreciate it. But they were a wonderful cast. Sometimes lightning strikes.
Yeah, I love the idea of you angling it from like a family point of view, because that's where your heart felt tugged. I think that's really beautiful. And it's also a theatrical piece, isn't it? Because she's an actress. We understand that whole touring life and the work-life balance and the parenting struggle. I think that's fabulous and a really interesting take on it. I did see that Judi Dench production at the National. Did you see that one?
I did, but anyone who knows me know I'm quite a time Nazi. And I think it's probably one of the 2 times in my entire life that I've been a latecomer, so it kind of broke my heart a bit. It was a 7:15 start time and I hadn't checked my tickets, so they held us in the foyer till the start of Glamorous Life. So if you know that show, you've missed the first 5 songs or seen them on a TV screen monitor.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was remarkable, and Patricia Hodge was incredible. I remember in that as well.
It was an incredible cast, and I love that you can see it on that YouTube video of the South Bank show, because it's based on a movie, isn't it? It Smiles.
Yes, it is. Ingmar Bergman, and the movie's quite different. The Desiree is very young, and you know, so when Hannah, I don't know why I'm saying Hannah, when brilliant Hannah Waddingham played it, you know, that's the age that it is in the Ingmar Bergman film. The Desiree is usually about 34, 35.
Oh, right.
Similarly, Countess Charlotte, I think, is in her late 20s in the film. Yeah, it's a black and white movie, which is quite dark, and there's some darkness in the show. But yeah, what those two did to that, and similarly, because it was Hugh Wheeler again on the book on Sweeney Todd with Stephen Sondheim, what they did with that kind of 10-pence slasher show to turn it into that almost grand opera, it's incredible. Yeah, it's incredible.
So casting wise, when you're approaching an actor-musician show, I asked John Doyle this, I think, on the podcast he did with me. When you're sort of going, oh, I want you for that part, you for that part. Oh, but how much does their instrumental skill come into it, or like their instrumental choice of what they can play? Do you go, oh, well, I can't have you playing that because I don't think that character would play the tuba?
Yeah, it's horses for courses, I think, Caroline. Just thinking of night music, I remember there was a duet. Is it called It Would Have Been Wonderful that Frederick and Carl Magnus sing? And so we had a Frederick that played the trumpet and a Carl Magnus played the soprano saxophone, which is like a clarinet. And the two of them dueling, squaring off like two bantam, cocks for this woman's affection, and the phallicness of those two instruments and the brassiness of those two instruments. And similarly, when Anne was doing, Now Later Soon, that trio, she's twittering at her makeup table, isn't she, about what to do and trying to distract her husband that she's frightened of, and she's this virginal wife. And so Sarah put little bursts of piccolo in between when he was singing against, in the little interludes. So it literally felt like twittering and tweeting. So the instrument absolutely served the moment rather than a skin graft going wrong. And in Treasure Island, when we were casting it, we knew that obviously it begins and ends in a pub in our version. So we wanted some fiddles for the reels, and an accordion has that sea shanty feel. So there are some shows that you think, well, I wouldn't have a harp on here. But if you have somebody brilliant come in, you try and bend it, for them. But we ended up with this incredible palette, 3 violins, an accordion, a clarinet, tuned percussion, drums, 2 pianos, piccolo, flute, mandolin, guitars. Incredible. And when you get good actor musicians, it's very humbling to watch, considering I got my grade 5 piano in yesteryear.
Yeah. I think I played maybe 16 bars max of my clarinet in Crazy View.
But I remember it, Caroline.
Oh, well, I'm glad it was unforgettable. Sorry.
And usually they put you a little bit on Glockenspiel. Did you get a little bit of Glockenspiel?
Didn't get Glock.
Maybe for the revival.
And then for Camelot, I did play my recorder a couple of times, which
there we go.
I am ribbed for a lot on the WhatsApp group, which,
Not here.
I think there's like some things go viral and it is quite often accompanied by some really bad recorder playing, and it usually gets sent to me. Grade 5 though, I do have grade 5 recorder.
Not for the faint-hearted. And again, all that peripatetic teachers being stripped from school of music. So we need to celebrate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's next for you, Paul? Obviously, I mentioned Kiss the Spiderwoman.
Yeah, I'm doing Kiss the Spiderwoman, which I learned Spanish when I was young, and that, went all through my education. So I knew the book in Spanish and that situation in Argentina in the 70s, which is the genesis of it. So I'm really thrilled to do a new version of that at Leicester, Bristol Vic, and then Southampton. We've got a superb cast for that. So I'm looking forward to that.
Exciting times, Paul. Thank you so much for talking musicals to me today. I've had a blast.
Caroline.
I always say I've had a blast because I have had a blast. It's just been fabulous.
You're superb. You're such an advocate for what we do and a shining example of it. So I will be coming to see you in Pride, as I'm sure the tickets are flying out.
Thank you very much. No, it's going to be very exciting, I think. But nothing's more exciting than when I get to talk about Torval and Dean in a podcast. So that's been the highlight of my day.
Exactly. The bar is high for the next one.
Absolutely brilliant. Good luck with everything coming up. And Kiss the Spiderwoman, never seen a professional production, but I'm about to.
Muchas gracias. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, but I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And with a lovely team, Joe Goodwin.
Oh, incredible. Yeah. Gabriella Slade. Yeah. Kate Waters. It starts, I think, public performances on the 3rd or 4th of April till the 25th of April in Leicester. And then it plays very end of May into mid-June at Bristol Vic. And then the start of July at the Mast in Southampton.
Can't wait. Thank you so much.
Caroline, you're just a superstar. Honestly, you make it so easy. It's so well scaffolded. It really is brilliant. And Aaron, what a treat to meet you. I hope you get enough there, and feel free to crop as you need.
thank you so much for listening today. This has been Talk Musicals to Me for the Bloop Network. My fabulous producer is Aaron Ware, and the music you heard is from the pen of the sublime Tom Self. If you get a moment, please subscribe or follow and rate the podcast by clicking the stars below on the podcast page. It takes about 2 seconds to do, and it will really help the podcast and its future life and would make us massively, eternally, enormously grateful. In the meantime, another huge thanks for tuning in, and please do so again next time to see who will be next up to talk musicals to me.